So CNN hits new lows today by trying to deceive the American people into thinking that there was nothing strange at all about the EJ Carrol interview. Trump is supposedly accusing them of doing something they didn't do, when in fact, all Trump really did was point out exactly what happened during the interview. This is completely disgusting. New lows for CNN and Anderson Cooper. I think this might be the worst outright deception that I've seen so far from this corrupt news network, CNN.
We begin tonight with the former president, campaign politics, his legal troubles, and lies. He finished his day in Charlotte, North Carolina, where the Fraternal Order of Police endorsed him, and he had this to say about a violent attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband.
You know that Nancy Pelosi has a big wall wrapped around her house. Of course, it didn't help too much with the problem she had, did it?
That's the former president speaking to members of law enforcement, making light, the first time I should point out, of the violent attack against Paul Pelosi. Now, that's what the former president was talking about to police, the near killing of a political rival's husband. Donald Trump came close to being shot in the head and had a near-death experience and got a second lease on life, and this is what he's doing with it.
Yes, that's right. You literally couldn't make this up if you wanted to. They try to make Trump seem like a terrible person for a quick clip in the middle of a speech about Nancy Pelosi, and then the very next clip, they play somebody saying the lie that Trump is a threat to democracy. It's like, no wonder he says stuff like that, and he uses that type of rhetoric, because he knows what he's dealing with. He's dealing with absolute evil who's willing to lie to the American people in order to beat him and pay anchors and shit to repeat these lies nonstop.
There's never been an individual in our country who is as grave a threat to our democracy as Donald Trump is.
There was one other thing that Donald Trump said today that I want to point out, because it kind of involves me, and he seemed to imply something that is unfounded. He was talking, as he has before, about an interview that EJ Carrol did with me back on June 24th, 2019.
Then there was an Anderson Cooper interview where she said essentially, no, he didn't rape me. She was selling her book. She wrote a book. The book would have been a total failure, probably was anyway, although probably sold more recently. Again, this is a woman that wasn't doing well until she came out with this stuff about me. And that's happened to others too, by the way. She's not the only one. But they have the Anderson Cooper tape. And in the Anderson Cooper tape, it's an interview of her. And Cooper says something to the effect, did he rape you? Did he rape you? He was so happy. Oh, did he rape you? And she gave a very good answer for me, but a bad answer for CNN, for Anderson. And he said, we're going to commercial break right now. We're going. Then she came back from commercial break, and she was much more hostile. But this man wouldn't let us use the tape or the proper questions having to do with the tape. Wouldn't let us. The Judge Kaplan, wouldn't let it be used. We wanted to get the outtakes. In other words, what did Anderson Cooper talk to her about during that intermission for a commercial that he called for immediately? Where do you see this? I mean, some of you have seen it, some of you haven't. We're going to commercial break right now. And so what happened is we weren't able to use it.
Okay, so this is not the first time that Trump has seemed to suggest some nefarious plot by me to manipulate EJ Carrol into saying something.
You didn't try to manipulate her into saying anything. While she was saying crazy off-the-wall nonsense, you cut the interview off. You stopped her from looking like more of a fool, is what you did. They're trying to deceive the American people into thinking that Donald Trump accused them of doing something they didn't do, when all Donald Trump did was point out exactly what happened during this crazy interview that changed a lot of the American people's minds about Donald Trump in this case. Probably saved his campaign.
He brought this up in a deposition for trial. Now, I normally don't respond to when Trump says something about me. I mean, this time it's kind of different because it's just kind of just demonstrably false. First, I just want to show you what it is he's rambling about.
I was not thrown on the ground and ravished, which the word rape carries so many sexual connotations. This was not sexual. It hurt.
But I think most people think of rape as it is a violent assault. It is not.
I think most people think of rape as being sexy.
Let's take a short break.
Think of the fantasies.
We're just going to take a quick break. If you can stick around, we'll talk more on the other side.
You're fascinating to talk to.
Did you guys hear that unmistakable laugh? That, oh my God, this lady is a effing lunatic laugh. Like,
You're fascinating to talk to.
It's unmistakable, and that's exactly what he was thinking. That's why this is so pathetic and so disgusting, because he is outright lying to the American people, trying to act like nothing crazy at all happened in that interview, and it was just completely normal, and Trump is just babbling about nonsense. Like, no, this interview is what woke up half the people that support Trump. Like, this interview is what really made people start digging in to the rest of all the nonsense that they've been pulling on Trump. So that's why this is so disgusting right here. Like, he knows exactly what happened and exactly what he's doing, and he's about to outright lie to you again. Because I remember this whole thing very well, because it's exactly what made me wake up and start looking into it. They did a third interview that day where Anderson Cooper goes away, and the next time it's a woman, and she asks all the exact same questions that Anderson Cooper asked her the first time. I've got that interview at the end, so please stick around and watch, because this video is important for real.
My conversation with EJ Carrol and the president's latest denial of her sexual violence allegations against him. He said, quote, "She's not my type." He's also said previously he did not know her, had never met her, even though they had, in fact, met. She's the one on the left, along with her husband, a local news anchor at the time, and the president's wife at the time, Ivana. The president has also said flat out that she is lying. Okay, so that commercial break, which we only just played a snippet of the commercial, ran 4 minutes long. So the former president seems to be suggesting that something we discussed, or that I discussed with EJ Carrol during a 4-minute-long commercial break that you would have been watching at home, made Ms. Carrol change her tone toward him. Not sure her tone actually changed in the second block of the interview.
Yeah, and what about the third interview that you're trying to act like just completely doesn't exist whatsoever? And conspicuously, the whole interview that was on the CNN channel is now gone, by the way, too.
The problem with this conspiracy theory is that this interview was actually pre-recorded.
Like, you can't make this up. He can't even keep his own lies straight. So now the video was pre-recorded, yet they're going to commercial breaks. And he mentions the broadcast. He even slips up. Just keep watching.
And we had to pre-record a toss to a commercial break and then welcome viewers back after a commercial break so that the entire 2 parts of the interview would fit into my show that night. So when you do that, when you interview someone for however many minutes, and then you toss to a break that'll later be inserted into the broadcast, you don't sit there for the entire 4 minutes of the commercial break with the guest just waiting to then come back to the show. Because it's pre-recorded, you don't have to sit there during commercial break. You just take a few seconds, you make sure the control room is still recording, you welcome viewers back as if you've just come out of a commercial break, and you continue with the interview. And that's exactly what I did with EJ Carrol. And I know this because we have the tape.
Another outright disgusting lie to try to throw you off. Because none of that right there even matters. None of that is even the issue whatsoever. Trump wasn't implying that he did something nefarious off camera. That's not what this is about at all. This is about how much of a radical lunatic that woman looked during this entire interview, and how it basically saved Trump's entire campaign, because after this video, nobody believed that woman anymore. I don't know how you could.
So while Trump is apparently suggesting I sat through a commercial break on live TV, is that this interview was actually pre-recorded on live TV with EJ Carrol telling her to be angry or whatever. We actually just paused in a pre-recorded interview for a few seconds. And if you don't believe me, here's the raw, unedited video of what was actually being recorded, and you will hear exactly what I said in the few seconds it took me to resume the interview.
Again, that's not the issue. Like, no one is saying that you said things off air. Like, the whole controversy was about the interview and how she seemed like she had been awake on meth for 15 days straight before she came to the interview. Like, they're trying to throw you off of what really actually was the substance of this whole situation. And it's disgusting.
We're going to take a quick break. If you can stick around, we'll talk more on the other side.
You're fascinating to talk to.
Now, again, that right there is what this whole interview was about. That's what Trump said he did right there. When she was talking complete lunacy, looking like a complete fool, he shut down the interview and basically they move on to she shuts down the interview, they go to a break, and then they come back and pick up the interview again, where after they probably try to get a handle on things. Well, then he tries to make it seem like it was a 2-segment thing. No, there was a whole nother segment that I have here coming up. The rest of the video is just the 2 segments from the CNN with Anderson Cooper interviewing her the second time, and then the female interviewing her again, doing with the exact same questions. So there's like 5 lies that they said in this video. He's trying to act like the third video doesn't exist, never even happened. And he's trying to act like Trump is blaming them for doing something they didn't do, when no, Trump's just telling you exactly what happened. That video changed a lot of Americans' minds. A lot of the people that were never Trump supporters, when they saw that and realized how sketch this trial was and how basically fabricated it looked and how crazy that woman looked on this video, there was like, how could anybody in their right mind believe her? And that's what this whole thing is about. And CNN couldn't do enough interviews with this woman to make her look sane and normal. So I'm done for today, you guys. The rest of this is just the interviews playing out. Please subscribe. Come back. Thanks.
Let's talk about what you say happened, because obviously the details of it all matter. And this is, I should point out, just part of, this is one person you talk about in your book. This is not a book about Donald Trump. There's not Donald Trump on the cover. This is about your life. And
we don't even mention his name. I mentioned his name once in the book. Once.
So you say you were in Bergdorf Goodman.
I was coming out of Bergdorf's.
Which was a store I heard you liked a lot.
It's a posh and cozy.
Your whole face lights up when you talk about Bergdorf Goodman, by the way.
I was just there today.
Okay.
I just loved it. So I was coming out, and he was coming in. He was standing out, and he put his hand like this. So I did not go through the revolving door. He came in. He said, "Hey, you're that advice lady." And I said, "Hey, you're that real estate tycoon." He said, "Come advise me. I want to buy a present." I said, "Oh, for who?" He said, "For a girl." So I was enchanted. It was such a great moment. So how about the handbags? Oh, no, he doesn't want a handbag. Well, how about a hat? So he strolls to that.
And had you met him prior to that?
Just once, briefly. There's a picture.
That's where the photo of with
my ex-husband and he with his ex-wife. It's a very nice.
Which, by the way, he had said he's never even met you previously. Obviously, the picture which we have, tells a different story.
So we went to the hats, and he immediately grabbed a fur hat, of course. And I said, "Oh, you can't put a dead animal on your head." And then I found out later, of course, all of his women wear those fur hats. Ivanka, you've seen pictures. They all wear. Okay. So he asked. I said, "How old is the young lady?" And he said, "How old are you?" And I said, 52. And he said, "You're so old."
He said that?
Of course. He said, "You're so old." And shortly after that, he said, "I know, lingerie." Or he could have said underwear. And so we went up the escalator, We went to the lingerie department. It was empty. There was nobody there. There was nobody on the whole floor, frankly. I think you go through bathing suits and cruisewear, and the store was not populated at the time. Nobody was there on the counter.
That's going to sound strange to people that nobody was in the...
Because Bergdorf's is the greatest store on the earth. They take care of whatever you want, they're there. If you're thirsty, they'll bring you water, they'll get you whatever, they'll call all over the country to get whatever you want. It was a moment in time, nobody was there. Plus, a dressing room door was open, which is very unusual because usually they're locked, and the attendant comes and locks it, escorts you in, etc. Okay, so on the
So
counter,
he said lingerie because he said he wanted you to help him pick out some lingerie.
well, it can't, because he was not having it with the hats.
Okay.
The hats were, okay, so then we went up. He was going to get some lingerie, and I am just like, oh, I can dine out forever on this story. We're going to go get lingerie.
You say you go up to the lingerie department and no one is around.
And there are 2 or 3 boxes on the counter, the fancy, remember the old-fashioned lingerie boxes, and a filmy see-through bodysuit in lilac gray. And he snatches it up and he says, go try this on. I said, you try it on. He said, no, it looks like it fits you. I said, it goes with your eyes. He said, no, go put this on. And Anderson...
So at this point, you're saying it's a
we're
friendly... Joshing.
I used to be a writer at Saturday Night Live. I see an entire sketch of making Donald Trump put this filmy thing over his pants. That is what I'm thinking. I am not thinking, I think it's... I was laughing as I said it. He said, well, you know, he went like this, and I walked in stupidly.
So for you, this was kind of a New York moment. Like one of those
best just like the best New York. Donald Trump is going to put on a filmy bodysuit. It's like, oh, I couldn't. So let's go in the dressing room. I thought, yeah, I'm going to make him put pants on. Walked in, and the minute I was in there, he shut the door and pushed me up against the wall and banged my head on the wall and kissed me. It was so shocking. I couldn't. Of course, I started laughing again because...
You started laughing?
Of course.
Why? Why, of course?
Because it was a way of... If it was at all erotic in his part, it would... If a man is laughed at, it usually will make him... and he put his shoulder against me to hold me against the wall. And at that point, I realized that I was in a very difficult situation.
Did he say anything?
No. It was just like, we're going to do this thing. We're just so hot for each other. Why would I even try to think what he was thinking? Anyway, so he pushed me, held me with his shoulder, and I was wearing a coat dress and tights, and he pulled down the tights. And so that's
he pulled it with both hands, with one hand?
One. And that was when it turned serious. I realized that this was a fight. And even though I can talk about it now and put words to it, at the time the adrenaline is pouring through me, and all I want to do is right.
How would you describe? What were you? You said you were obviously surprised, fighting. Right. Were you scared? Were you angry?
I was too panicked to be scared.
Too panicked to be scared, okay.
You know.
You said adrenaline was pumping.
I assume it was, right. Because I got strong enough. He's 6'3", apparently, I've looked it up. I was about 6'1" in the massive heels I was wearing. And so we were almost even in height. And down go the tights. And it was against my will. And it hurt, and it was a fight.
And this is not a question I would normally ask, and if you don't want to answer, I totally understand. But given the prior accusations, which have all been of forms of assault or harassment, you're saying there was actual penetration?
Yes.
Did you, puts it into a different category of any of the other women who have come forward. I think that is the definition of rape. One definition.
That's the definition. Yes.
How long?
Brief. Brief, because when a woman is stamping her feet,
That's what you were doing. You started stamping your feet.
I always think back and think, that was the stupidest thing I've ever done. I should never have done it. And then I didn't behave.
When you say I should have never done it, you mean?
That was just a dumb thing, to go into a dressing room with a man that I hardly know and have him shut the door and then be unable to stop him. And I was a competitive athlete, so I wasn't I didn't freeze. I rose to the occasion, and it did not last long. And that's why I don't use the word you just used. I use the word fight.
You don't use the word rape.
Sexual violence is in every country, in every strata of society, and I just feel that so many women are undergoing sexual violence. Mine was short. I got out. I'm happy now. I'm moving on. And I think of all the women who are enduring constant sexual violence. So this one instant, this one, 3 minutes in this little dressing room, I just say it's the fight. That way I'm not the victim, right? I'm not the victim.
You don't feel like a victim?
I was not thrown on the ground and ravished, which the word rape carries so many sexual connotations. This was not sexual. It hurt. It just,
But I think most people think of rape as it is a violent assault. It is not.
I think most people think of rape as being sexy.
Let's take a short break.
Think of the fantasies.
We're just going to take a quick break. If you can stick around, we'll talk more on the other side.
You're fascinating to talk to.
So this is the do-over interview that basically proves everything that Trump was saying 100% correct. And the female here does a much, much better job at leading her through the questions and kind of giving her multiple choice answers to choose from. And it proves everything that Trump was saying right. They shut down the interview and then literally did a do-over that they're not willing to tell you about to try to make it better, but instead they'll lie to you and try to make it seem like Trump is just making stuff up. There was nothing strange about this interview at all. It's completely despicable, man.
Walked into the lingerie department. There was nobody there, which is strange. It was in the evening, and on the counter were 3 really fancy boxes and a see-through bodysuit. He walked right to the bodysuit and snatched it up and said, "Go put this on." Now, that struck me as so funny because here I am, 52. I am not going to be put. My idea was, I said, "No, you put it on." And he said, "No, it looks like it fits you." I said, "No, it goes with your eyes." So I am spinning a comedy scene in my head.
Of course, banter, back and forth. I get it.
But you see how funny that would be to make him put that on. Right.
Yes, and you, by the way, used to be a comedy writer on Saturday Night Live.
Right.
You were engaging in this banter, as I think many of us would, because you didn't know what violence was about to unfold, and you could never have known that.
How would I know that?
Of course. And
Although I thought I was pretty stupid.
Well, I understand that afterwards, in retrospect, you blame yourself. Many women in this situation do. However, you go into the dressing room, you think that he's going to hold it up against him, and then it gets violent.
Well, the minute he went like this, I preceded him into the dressing room. The minute he closed that door, I was banged up against the wall.
He slammed you against the wall.
Yeah, I hit my head really hard. Boom.
And you point out that he's a tall, big person, and he
6'3".
pinned you in some way.
Well, I'm a tall person, too. I was 6'1" in my heels, and I was a competitive athlete. So, when somebody shows you... The thing is, it shocked me. For a moment, I was stunned, right? And then he tried to kiss me, which was... It was so hard, so my reaction was to laugh, to knock off the erotic whatever he had going on, because the man, when you laugh at him, he's like, no. He just went at it.
And when you say went at it, he
pulled down my tights. And it was a fight. I want women to know that I did not stand there. I did not freeze. I was not paralyzed, which is a reaction that I could have had because it's so shocking. No, I fought. And it was over very quickly. It was against my will, 100%. And I ran away, out.
And he pinned you, I mean, just without getting overly graphic, he pinned you against the wall.
He held his shoulder against
He
it.
put his shoulder against you.
And you're right, you made that point.
He's much bigger than you are. I mean, not just tall, I mean, in terms of his massiveness. And so he pinned you against the wall, he ripped off your tights, and...
Not all the way off, just down.
Down. He pulled down his pants.
Just unzipped.
He unzipped his pants. And this is beyond sexual. I mean, legally, he raped you.
I don't use the word. I have difficulty with the word. I see it as a fight.
Yes.
I don't,
I understand, but you see it as a fight and you don't want to be seen as a victim, and I totally get that.
Don't want to be seen as a victim because I quickly went past it. It was a very, very brief episode of my life. Very brief. I am not faced with sexual violence every single day like many women around the world. And so, yes, I'm very careful with that word.
I understand.
I like you will use it.
Well, here's the situation. I understand that you don't want this to define you, of course, who would? But I'm saying legally, it was rape. It's unambiguous. What you describe in the book, it was rape. And that actually goes further than the 15 women who came forward during the campaign to say that they described situations very similar to what you experienced. Him getting them into a room, him pinning them against a wall, him forcing a kiss on them. But yours actually goes further in terms of being legally rape. That's what it was. And so when you heard Donald Trump in the infamous Access Hollywood tape, sort of foreshadow this, or at least explain himself to Billy Bush. Let me just remind people of how he described encounters like this. Listen to this.
I better use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the pussy. I can do anything.
What did you think when you heard that?
It knocked me back. I felt relief, and that's right. That's right.
You felt relief that was confirmation, basically, you felt. So as you know, since you came forward, the president has denied all of this. Let me read to you his statement. He says on Friday, I've never met this person in my life. She's trying to sell a new book. That should indicate her motivation. It should be sold in the fiction section. No pictures, no surveillance, no video, no reports, no sales attendants around. I would like to thank Bergdorf Goodman for confirming they have no video footage of any such incident because it never happened. Your response?
Well, what is the title of this book? What do we need men for? Does it say Donald Trump attacked me? I never mentioned Donald Trump in the description of the book. On Amazon, you don't see it. It was not about selling a book about Donald Trump. By the way, male authors never get this question.
About are you just trying to sell books?
Yes, of
course. I mean, but beyond the book selling part, he denies that it happened. He just denies. He also denies that he met you, though there is a picture of you two having met. I think that what he has said is that was just in passing at a party. But here's the picture of you two. That was your ex-husband, and so there's photographic evidence of you having met Donald Trump.
Right.
But he is denying that.
That is his, with all the 15 women or 16 who've come forward, it's the same. He denies it, he turns it around, he attacks, and he threatens. And then everybody forgets it, and then the next woman comes along, and I am sick of it. Allison, I am sick of it. Think how many women have come forward. Nothing happens. The only thing we can do is sit with you and tell our stories so that we empower other women to come forward and tell their stories, because we have to change this culture of sexual violence.